Test, test, test. Can't hear it? It's because it wasn't turned on. I've just turned it on right now. Let's do a mic check. 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. Test. No?
It just doesn't sound very good.
1, 2, 3, testing. You got it, you're good? You're good? 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3. Did you want to test yours as well?
Wait and see what he says.
Test, test, test.
I've already unplugged from there, so
1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3.
I'll go with his recommendation.
Tell call Dan and see what's going on.
Yeah, just future reference, the problem you guys are going to have.
Not one of his favorite things to have all these mics up here, but
Do what? Have all the mics up there?
The problem,
that's why we have our
That's
thing.
all. It just needs to be tweaked.
well,
It worked last time, no
here's-
problem.
well, here's the problem. A lot of guys don't have, like, I've got a DV pad. If that could be mic level, that would simplify things. But it being line
We're going to
level,
have our tech guy come down here when this is done, so that he can review and see what the problem is, because we've got to get it worked out for everybody. It is? Oh, so.
Sure. Just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Give me a second.
guess we're ready for it.
Okay, all set? Anybody not ready? Okay. All right, good morning. I'm Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri, on behalf of Florida Sheriff's Association President David Shore and the 67 Sheriffs of Florida, here this morning to announce the results of Operation Safe Steps, which is a statewide pedestrian education and enforcement initiative. Just very briefly, the Florida Sheriff's Association, through its task force, does operations twice a year that we hope will have an impact on increasing public safety across Florida. We try and conduct these operations in a way that all 67 sheriffs and sheriff's offices can participate to, again, better affect public safety around the state. The past initiatives have focused on arresting people on violent warrants, springtime alcohol consumption, illegal alcohol consumption, traffic enforcement, drug enforcement, and a variety of things. So this is the fall operation for the Florida Sheriff's Task Force, again, affecting a problem across the state. As we decided on this operation, it was because of many recent reports and our own observations that Florida has become one of the most dangerous states in the United States for pedestrians walking on and crossing our streets and roadways. Statistics show that the majority of pedestrian crashes occur during traditional rush hour, and the majority occur outside of designated crosswalks, which is especially tragic because many of these crashes can be avoided by following the rules of the road. Between 2011 and 2013, there was a 19% increase in pedestrian crashes here in the state of Florida, with approximately 7,600 crashes in 2011 and 9,300 crashes in 2013. Pedestrian crashes are trending up again for 2014. So during that period of time of 2011 to 2013, there was a 20% increase in the number of pedestrians involved in those 7,600 crashes. So not only are the crashes up, but the number of people involved in the crashes. So there's multiple pedestrians involved in some of those individual crashes. So there are about 8,300 pedestrians who were hit in those 7,600 crashes. And in 2011, there were over 9,900. So in total, during this 3-year period of 2011 to 2013, so over a 3-year period, 2011 to 2013, there were 25,900 separate pedestrian crashes in the state of Florida involving 27,700 people. So that's a significant number of Floridians and visitors who are adversely affected and impacted and hurt and killed as a result of these pedestrian crashes. So you're talking over almost 28,000 people that were hit over a 3-year period. And so during the same 3-year period where we had over 27,000 pedestrians that were struck, 1,479 were killed. So almost 1,500 people killed in pedestrian crashes across Florida during that 3-year period. So think about that for a second. That's over one a day, needlessly killed on the roadways of Florida. So on top of those 1,500 deaths that occurred during that 3-year period, of the 27,000 crashes, about 18,000 people were injured. So we got a lot of people being injured and killed on the roadways of Florida due to these pedestrian crashes. So to put it in a percentage, about 71% of all pedestrian crashes result in a death or an injury. So not only are the number of pedestrian crashes up over the 3-year period, also the number involving injuries is trending up as well by about 20%. So what we have is not only more pedestrian crashes, but more involving death and injury. And we have, unfortunately, way too many local examples of what's occurring across Florida. If you remember the 6-year-old infant that was killed on Missouri Avenue here in Largo back on November 10th, when her mom and brother were crossing Missouri Avenue outside of a crosswalk. Back in March of this year, a 17-year-old young man was killed while crossing Gulf Boulevard in St. Pete Beach. He was struck by one vehicle and then struck and killed by a second vehicle, again crossing outside of a crosswalk. On Sunday, November 30th, another pedestrian, a woman, was killed in Madeira Beach while darting across Gulf Boulevard, again outside of a crosswalk. And last night, the Florida Highway Patrol reported in Pasco County yet another pedestrian killed crossing US 19. Not only is this a tragedy for the victims and their families, but also in many cases for the drivers of the vehicles who struck these victims, because despite their careful driving, they could not avoid the crash due to the pedestrian darting into traffic. Also consider the impact of the individuals and families for lost wages while recuperating from injuries and the fiscal impact upon our state's healthcare system for something that is avoidable. The majority of the pedestrian crashes occurred during daylight hours and outside of designated crosswalks. Of the almost 26,000 separate pedestrian crashes during this 3-year period, 13,500 of those occurred outside of crosswalks. This, of course, begs the question of how many injury and death pedestrian crashes could have been avoided simply by the pedestrians following the rules of the road and using these designated crosswalks at intersections or even mid-road. The common traffic law violations that result in these serious pedestrian crashes include pedestrians not obeying the walk, don't walk signals, pedestrians walking on the roadway instead of the sidewalk, and as I've mentioned now many times, pedestrians crossing at roadways at other than designated crosswalks. Also, cars not yielding to pedestrians at the intersections and the mid-road crosswalks. So to address this problem, the Florida Sheriff's Task Force designated, as I said, our fall initiative, Operation Safe Steps, in order to educate the public and hopefully reduce this rising trend of pedestrian crashes and deaths. Between October 24th, 2014 and November 20th of 2014, 18 Florida Sheriff's Offices, and I'm joined here this morning by representatives of the Pasco County Sheriff's Office and the Hernando County Sheriff's Office who participated in this operation, spanned out across Florida with the primary goal to educate the walking and motoring public of their obligations and what the rules of the road are, and in some cases, to enforce the traffic laws. So during this 30-day period, sheriff's deputies across the state of Florida issued 6,847 pedestrian warnings, 222 pedestrian citations, traffic tickets, over 8,200 motorist warnings, and over 6,700 motorist citations for traffic violations involving pedestrians. We hope that the contact that our deputies had with almost 23,000 people across the state of Florida during this 30-day period will have an impact and improve pedestrian safety. Nevertheless, despite our efforts during this 30-day period and while this operation was ongoing, there were 759 pedestrian crashes involving 803 pedestrians, and again, during this 30-day period, sadly, 33 people were killed on the roadways of Florida, still averaging over 1 a day. While the operation has ended, our efforts have not. We will continue to vigilantly stop pedestrians and motorists to educate them, and when appropriate, enforce our state's traffic laws so that we reverse this trend of rising pedestrian crashes and the resulting deaths and injuries. In too many of these cases, the crash can be avoided by the individuals following the rules of the road, having pedestrians cross at crosswalks, and cars yield to pedestrians within those crosswalks. The issue of pedestrian safety reaches far and wide. The Gulf beaches here in Pinellas County and that area along Gulf Boulevard have been very susceptible to pedestrian crashes over the last year. And we have with us here this morning Robin Soley, who's the CEO of the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce, who's going to speak to you for a minute, and then also Julie Bond from Walkwise Tampa Bay, which is a Florida Department of Transportation education initiative housed at the University of South Florida. So once they have an opportunity to make a few comments and to address you, then we'll all be happy to answer any questions that you have. Robin?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am Robin Solly, and I am the CEO for the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce. And our organization has been exploring this unfortunate pedestrian safety issue for quite some time. And about 1.5 years ago, we partnered with Walkwise with an idea for us to implement education along the beaches, not only for our current residents, but for the transient business residents and drivers that walk, drive all along Gulf Boulevard. And we developed what we call the key card, and it's a pedestrian safety key card that as a transient person comes into a hotel property, they can get this put into their key as they go to unlock the door to their hotel room and have a few bullet points about pedestrian safety. Additionally, across the state and across this county, we have welcome centers that welcome the people that are not familiar with our rules of the road, and we've developed what we call our RAC card, and that again is an educational piece in those information outlets to provide that safety for those pedestrians. And then finally, we are in the proofing phase right now of our final piece, and that is a tag hanger for the rearview mirror for those people that get into a rental car. And it is our goal to spread this initiative statewide through our resources with chambers of commerce across the state of Florida so that we have a three-pronged approach for pedestrian safety and driver safety as people are traveling the roads of our local area. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Bond. I'm with the Center for Urban Transportation Research at the University of Florida, and I'm the project manager for Walkwise Tampa Bay and also Walkwise Florida. And this project is funded by the Florida Department of Transportation. We started Walkwise Tampa Bay as an education effort. So this is education. We have the enforcement. I'm going to talk about education. Also of importance is the engineering that takes place. So those 3 E's are very important working together to solve this problem that we have. So Walkwise Tampa Bay was formed about 5 years ago here in District 7. It was an original idea that we came up with, and it's a grassroots effort to go out to the people and to speak to them about pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, and driver safety. So over this time, we have spoken to groups everywhere throughout this district, and now we're taking this statewide into counties such as Orange County, Lee County, some of those counties that also have high crash rates. So what we do is we go out, and it's a grassroots effort. We have a presentation, and we meet with people, and we talk to them about what they need to do as drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists. So we have an interactive presentation, and we're actually collecting data during these presentations. We have a turning point technology system that the people in the audience feel sort of like they're playing a game show. So we're actually collecting data on their knowledge of pedestrian laws and pedestrian safety. So at the end of the year, we have a great idea of what people know about laws, for example, and then how we need to tackle this and how we need to solve the problem. So we not only go out and give presentations, but we go out and we walk into businesses and provide information to them for their employees and for their customers. We were very happy to partner with the Chamber, Tampa Beach's Chamber, with the Key to Safety cards, and that has been a very successful program, now going statewide. And so it not only educates the visitors who come here, but it also educates their employees, because their employees are walking daily along Gulf Boulevard or the other areas, and so it's providing education in a multi-pronged approach. So this grassroots effort, we have people take a pledge for safety. They actually take a pledge, and then if they would like to, become one of our ambassadors. So we know we can't reach as many people as we'd like to, so we're recruiting ambassadors throughout the counties, and they're helping us spread the word about pedestrian, bicycle, and driver safety. So for example, this week we're giving 2 Bike Smart classes, one at Pinellas Hope, which is near here, and one at Safe Harbor. We reach out to all types of audiences. We go to businesses, to schools, and we really talk about the importance of pedestrian safety. Everyone who attends gets one of our Walkwise reflective bags, and if they do a follow-up survey, we also send them a Walkwise t-shirt that has the Walkwise tips on the back. So we feel that this approach has been very successful. We're finding that the counties outside of Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough are very excited that we're expanding statewide. And the presentations we've given in the Orlando area have also been very well received. And we talk about laws, we talk to drivers about speed limits. Speed limits are very important when you look at the crash rates and the impact that it has. Lower speed limits save lives. And so that's very important when enforcement are out there providing education, that we look at drivers and we let them know that, you know, lower speeds do save lives. So that's all I have on the education program, and I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
So I gave you a lot of numbers, a lot of stats. I'm going to sum it up this way, is that over a 3-year period, 1,500 people died needlessly in Florida because they weren't crossing where they should have been or our car didn't yield to them. We had 28,000 people involved in pedestrian crashes, and it's all avoidable. It can stop. It needs to stop. We're seeing a significant problem, and we're doing something about it. The Florida Sheriffs are committed to it. We will continue this effort. But of all the problems that we face as a country, as a nation, and what we're seeing here locally, is that this can be fixed. This can stop. It's a matter of people just paying attention, crossing their crosswalks, and doing the right thing. There's so many things that happen that affect people's lives, where people die, that we can't fix, we can't change, we can't avoid in some cases. This is avoidable, this is fixable, this is doable, and we need to reverse this trend because we can and we should. People don't need to die. We don't need over one person dying every single day because they were hit by a car. And a real tragedy too, which can't be lost in this, is that person who is just minding their own business, driving down the road, not impaired by alcohol and drugs, not speeding, not doing anything wrong, and somebody darts out in front of them. Think about the impact on that person. They're a victim too, because, you know, and especially that 6-week-old baby that was killed up here on Missouri Avenue, you know, last month. That person didn't do anything wrong. Just driving down the road, and they're darting out in front. So again, importantly, this is a reversible trend. This is a problem that can be fixed. And we, as the Sheriffs of Florida, are committed to doing everything we can to do that. So any of us are happy to take any questions that you might have.
What do you do next from here? Like the 4-week period's over, are you going to start issuing out tickets, or are you just going to be handing out these things, these cards?
Yeah, both, and continuing that effort. And, you know, with traffic enforcement in and of itself, you know, I can tell you my philosophy on traffic enforcement is it should be educational at first. And you can accomplish effective traffic enforcement by educating people. Sometimes all they need is to see those red and blue lights in the background to get stopped. And if they have not a history of committing traffic violations and a history of generally being a safe driver, but they made a mistake, then you can accomplish effective traffic enforcement by educating them and warning them. However, on the other side of that coin, there's people who don't get the message, and it's repeated violations over and over again. And we, like many law enforcement agencies, track the warnings that we give. So if you stop somebody, and this is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th time, okay, or whatever it may be, then they need to pay, they need to learn. But if we can accomplish it by just giving them a warning and educating them on what they need to do, then that's where we win. So the goal is education. The goal is to change the behavior. How you change the behavior, whether it's through education or sometimes it takes them reaching into their pocket and paying a significant fine, you know, so be it. But we need to change the behavior.
You have huge stretches of road, especially on US 19 when you're heading north, where between lights,
Right.
wow, you're talking probably over
Right.
a mile in some areas.
Right.
How are you going to tell a person not to cross the street right there in the middle?
I don't know, do they want to die? That's a pretty easy message. If you're going to dart across 8 lanes of traffic, walk down to the intersection. And I tell them that in a heartbeat, because it isn't worth dying over. Walk a little bit further down the road and cross at the crosswalk. So, you know, I hear what you're saying, and maybe that is a tough message, but dying's tougher.
Sheriff, Florida DOT pedestrian safety grants, the high visibility enforcement, is that where the funding for this came
No.
from?
This doesn't have anything to do with it. This was strictly an initiative by the Florida Sheriffs Association and by the Sheriffs of Florida, and didn't have anything to do. There are some initiatives out there, there are those grants out there, and a lot of agencies participate in those, but that's separate and distinct from this.
Besides Missouri Avenue and obviously US 19 and Gulf Boulevard, what are some other big problem areas in Pinellas County when it comes to pedestrian crashes?
Well, you know, Gulf to Bay, I know Clearwater has a problem up there in the city of Clearwater on Gulf to Bay. US 19, you know, we have problems out here on Ulmerton Road, Park Boulevard, all the really major thoroughfares. And you see it even in some of the cities. I mean, I see it in traveling around. You see it in downtown Clearwater, you see it in downtown St. Petersburg. And one of the things that people need to make sure they do is pay attention at those intersections to those walk, don't walk signals. I mean, they're there for a reason. They're there to control the flow of traffic. And yes, you know, you might be a few minutes late for lunch or going to that appointment you're walking to, but again, it beats the alternative, which is that you get smushed by a car and you're dead. And so it's a big problem. So again, this is solvable. This is something that we can change. And if people just follow the rules of the road, if everybody would follow the rules of the road, we could really see a significant downward trend as opposed to the spike that we're seeing. But again, when people are just darting out, and occasionally you do see them where they involve an impaired driver, but the bulk of them don't, because it's somebody just darting out into traffic.
Sheriff, you indicated your first step is education, but do you anticipate giving more jaywalking tickets so people will fear doing this from an economic standpoint as well as their own
Well, I hope not, Mark. I hope people just get the message. That's what we want. And certainly, as you can see by the statistics from this operation, is that we gave predominantly warnings, 6,800 warnings, but we did issue 222 citations. And our system tracks this, so and that's statewide. But of what we did here in Pinellas County as an example, if we stopped somebody today and they were given a warning last week for doing the exact same thing, then the right thing to do is for the deputies to issue a ticket. And we want to, again, we want to change behavior. So how do you change behavior? The first thing is you ask. Then you kind of tell. And then if that doesn't work, then you got to do something else to change the behavior, and eventually they'll get sick of reaching into their pocket and paying. But again, our goal here is really not punitive. This isn't the intent of this. Our goal here is to save people's lives.
I have a question for Julie.
Yep.
Sure. Just step up to the mic. I've just seen a study that indicates the 4 most dangerous places in America for pedestrians are in Florida. We're number 2, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. Is that danger by design?
Is it danger by design?
Yes.
Oh, because of you're talking about the way that the streets are built?
How do you explain that the 4 most dangerous places for pedestrians are in Florida and we're number 2 on that list? Is it the pedestrians' fault or is it the design of the roadways?
Okay, that question is a little bit difficult to answer about whose fault that is, because we just need to work together to solve the problem, and it's a multifaceted problem that takes the education and the engineering. And so, for example, there was a prior question about pedestrians crossing mid-block. Fletcher Avenue, for example, is going under a complete streets project. And so they have put mid-block crossings that help pedestrians safely get across where they may have been crossing otherwise. So engineering is going to help with pedestrians crossing in safe areas. The education is going to help because through our education program, we're talking to people and we're finding out why that behavior is happening. So I think to answer your question, it's a little bit of everything, and we need to all work together with the enforcement, the education, and the engineering to solve that problem so that we aren't number 2.
If I could follow up on that, I mean, you're with the Center for Urban Transportation.
Yes.
So you study urban transportation issues. How could Florida have the top 4 slots and be the most dangerous place for pedestrians in 4 different metro locations? That's a statistical anomaly that couldn't just happen. There must be a reason for that.
Yeah, and Stephen, I don't know if you want to answer. I have my project manager from the Florida Department of Transportation here, but it is, I mean, we are looking at, the issues that are causing the crashes, and we're looking at some new and innovative ideas, the mid-block crossings, the complete streets. The Florida Department of Transportation has a campaign that's called Alert Today, Alive Tomorrow that is really tackling that issue. And also, Florida Department of Transportation, they just adopted a complete streets policy, and through that policy, they're looking at doing things such as road diets. So the roads might become more narrow than wider. And so they're looking at, why are there crashes on certain streets? So they are looking at that, and they're trying to figure out, does this street, do we need to lower the speed limits? Do we need to put mid-block crossings in? Because yes, we do have some dangerous areas here. We do have a high pedestrian crash rate, and we're looking at all the reasons that those happen, and we're looking at ways to fix that. Because, Florida, we have a lot of large highways, especially around the Tampa Bay area. And so sometimes that's difficult for a pedestrian to get across. So the sheriff was talking about how pedestrians may cross mid-block, and they're trying to fix that problem. Well, these mid-block crossings can help because pedestrians are going to cross where cars expect them to. Lowering speed limits is another big way to help this problem. So I guess there are lots of reasons why that we are in the top position, but the DOT is looking at ways to lower the pedestrian crashes, but it's hard to answer because it takes all of those solutions working together. And if you look at the reason why, some of the reasons why, we do have large roadways. We do have lots of exposure where pedestrians are out walking because we have great weather. There are lots of different reasons why we're in that position. And we are looking at ways that we can, look at the behavior and figure out the best way to solve that. So Stephen, I don't know if you wanted to comment also. I'm putting you on the spot. Yeah.
I do have a follow-up question.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not with the DOT, so, Stephen, did you want to comment?
I think, just to, I'm sorry, give me a chance to get up there.
But the DOT is looking at those issues, especially in this area, and it takes everyone working together. You have to look at the engineering, how, what's happening on the high crash corridors in order to fix those. But
Well, let me rephrase the question, if you wouldn't mind stepping in front of it.
Sure.
When people hear tonight that Florida is more dangerous than any other state in the country and want to know why, what's the answer?
As Julie kind of mentioned, it is a complex problem. It involves all of those different things, that she was alluding to. But, mainly if you look at what makes Florida different just in general compared to other states, we're really very unique. We're very suburban. We're not as urban as some of the cities, up in the north and some of the states up north, where there actually are more people out walking. There's more, there's safety in numbers. There's people that are, cities that are denser. And you kind of have, a critical mass of people where, you expect there to be a pedestrian out crossing the street, even if it's not necessarily in a crosswalk. Whereas here, most people drive in Florida. That's just a fact of life. It's the way it is. And then to kind of add on to that, there's a very large percentage of people that are not, able to drive. There's a large percentage of the population. So there's a lot of children and there's a lot of elderly and people that, are seniors and are above the average adult age. And so if you kind of look at how, both Florida has developed over the years and also the population makeup, you'll see that we're very different from any other state in the country. And I think you'll find that some of those factors also play into it, in addition to the engineering and the education and all that stuff too.
I think it's great that the sheriff's office has taken this initiative and is taking action now, but it really seems like Florida is a bit behind the curve on addressing this problem. It didn't just happen overnight. The demographics you're talking about have been around for decades. So why is Florida so slow in catching up to this problem?
It's a very hard thing to change, something that is so complex. I mean, look at other campaigns, specifically traffic safety campaigns like Click It or Ticket. That took a generation to change behavior and to get people to realize that this is something that they should, consider doing. Sure, it takes you maybe a little bit of an inconvenience. It may not be something that you really want to do, but ultimately it's going to save your life and it's going to improve the lives of people that are in your community. So it's something that you should consider doing.
Is it going to take more investment by the state of Florida in redesigning sidewalks and crossings and other things, maybe bridges to make it safer for pedestrians?
Absolutely. We actually recently adopted our first ever complete streets policy, and that policy is available online, or I can give you a copy of it to look at. But what we're going to be doing over the next year is looking at that policy in ways that we can actually implement it into all of our standards and designs and guides to make sure that as we continue to resurface and perform maintenance and implement new projects on our roads, they're meeting a higher standard in terms of what's the safest possible design for pedestrians.
And just if I could ask one more follow-up question, I'm treating you like you're the governor and you can control this, so I apologize for that. But as a state, should pedestrians be a higher priority than they are now? We talk about building new highways and new interstates and speeding up traffic, but it seems that pedestrians have been lost in the priorities of the state of Florida when it comes to safety.
Well, pedestrians really are safety in general is our first priority, and pedestrians are a hugely important thing that we want to consider. We're a tourist state. It's just not a place that we want to be with having this high pedestrian fatality rate. Nobody's happy about it, and has it been a priority in the past? I think so, and is it a priority in the future? Probably even more so. It's become such a pressing issue that we're willing to really do whatever it takes to turn it around.
And also, the DOT really is investing in education programs like Walkwise Tampa Bay. And, we're out there, we're talking to people, we're finding out, what issues they have in traveling around the area, and then we're trying to respond to those and to make the areas better for pedestrians and also bicyclists. So I think the complete streets policy the DOT has just put into place is going to make some big changes in our area. But it takes everyone, it takes all of us working together, enforcement, engineering, and education, to make the change here in Florida.
Stephen Benson, FDOT District 7.
Anybody else got anything?
Just a question for you, Sheriff.
Yeah.
For every 30, you handed out 1 ticket for every 30 warnings to pedestrians. Is that really enough to convince these people to change their habits, or do you need to start writing more tickets?
Well, reality is that probably you're gonna end up having to write some tickets. We know from history with it is, again, we try to educate people, try to do it the easy way. There's a saying, we can do it the easy way, we can do it the hard way. We'd rather do it the easy way. The easy way is that to modify that behavior through a warning. But the reality is that some people aren't gonna get it, some people aren't gonna listen, and the sad reality is that probably some of those people are gonna get hurt or killed because they're gonna continue to do it. So we will continue the effort, and when we find, and when it's appropriate, especially as if they've been warned previously, then they need to reach in their pocket and pay. Again, it isn't about trying to be punitive. It's about trying to fix a behavior and correct a behavior, but some people don't listen. It's just like any other type of enforcement action and any other type of traffic enforcement. You need to slow down. You need to stop at a stop sign. You don't need to run that red light. If you got a safe driving history, and sometimes people make mistakes and, things happen, so you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, as long as it's not aggressive and it's not intentional, because people do make mistakes. But when they do it a second time, third time, fourth time, no, it's time to pay. And again, to correct the behavior, that's the whole purpose of it. Because you want to, why? You want them to feel a little bit of pain so they think about it, right? And that's the whole methodology that we use in this. So that's why you see predominantly, because the warnings, because it was an effort at education at first. But again, you see the magnitude of the problem, so we need to keep it up.
Looking at the statewide numbers for pedestrian crashes, that increased from 2011 to 13. Is that also an increase that's reflected in Pinellas County?
Yeah, and I think we can get those numbers for you, but I believe it is, and I see it all the time. Again, as I'm looking at all the numbers and looking at the stats and looking at the data, and there's just a lot of pedestrian crashes. As we know, when we talk about, we've had so many here in Pinellas County and in the Tampa Bay area. So it's representative from what I see, yes. Yeah. Anybody have anything else? All right, we appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Okay, thanks again.